The comment section has been a little dry as of late, but the videos have been hot. So I want to try and get that comment section rolling on today's video because we're talking about Chris Jones. We're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. Type CJ in the comments if you want Chris Jones to return to Kansas City for the 2024 season. I don't know about you, but I certainly want him back. So get down there. It takes a couple seconds. CJ, Chris Jones, let's bring him back for 2024. Packed show for you here today on the Chiefs Report. I'm your host, Jay Sanders, and well, like I started out with, Chris Jones could be staying in Kansas City. We'll give you the latest on that as he wants Odell Beckham Jr. to become a Kansas City Chief. We'll tell you why exactly this happens and where this all stems from. But, well, if he wants him to be a Kansas City Chief, wouldn't that make him already wanting to stay in Kansas City? Is he already staying? Does he already plan on staying? Does he already plan on being here? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Plus, if Odell isn't the option after Tee Higgins was franchise tag, let's talk about some wide receiver options I could see the Chiefs signing for the 2024 season. But let's start with OBJ. Obviously, the rumors around him continue to swirl, and now they've kind of encapsulated Chris Jones into him. Now, what exactly do I mean? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. But Robert Griffin III was the one who kind of, I guess, threw the rumor back out there. He tweeted this on Friday. The Chiefs should sign Odell Beckham Jr. Last year, he proved he is still dynamic after being 8th in the NFL, averaging 16.1 yards per catch. The Chiefs struggled with drops last year, but OBJ had the lowest drop rate of his career with one drop on 64 targets. That's 1.6%. And remember my favorite thing that he had in this entire tweet? Chief him. All right, I like that. The thing, though, behind this, Chris Jones retweeted it, or reposted it, whatever you want to call it. I know X isn't exactly Twitter anymore, so we can't call that, but still, he reposted it. Well, hold on. First of all, you're a free agent right now, so are you saying you're already going to sign with the Chiefs? And second of all, you want Odell? Okay, let's talk about it then. In 2023, he did play pretty well, 16.1 on the average. That's really, really good. His yards were not great, but they're not bad for a guy who's kind of at his age range. 565, 35 receptions, 3 touchdowns. And in my mind, he was the wide receiver 2 behind Zay Flowers in Baltimore. So I think that's one thing. But this season is not an inclination of what this guy has been able to do throughout his career. Obviously, he had the little ACL injury against the Bengals in the Super Bowl, but still, throughout his time with the Giants and then with the Rams and now with the Ravens, he's produced some incredible numbers. 7,000 plus yards, almost nearing 8,000. 59 touchdowns, averaging 14 yards per catch and 566 receptions. This guy has been a beast since he stepped on the football field, and we all know his catch with the New York Giants. Listen, if a guy can catch that, I'm sure he can catch a pass from Patrick Mahomes. So I ask you again, I know we've kind of talked about him on the show before, but now that we have Chris Jones kind of chiming in, we have Tee Higgins already signed. Do you want Odell Beckham Jr. in 2024? I want you to type Y for yes. If you would like to see OBJ in a Chiefs uniform, I want you to type in for no if you're thinking, nah, I'm good, Jace. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think we need to sign him. So let me know in the comment section, Y for yes, in for no. Would you like Odell Beckham Jr. to sign with the Chiefs? Now let's get back into this tweet. Would Chris Jones retweet this if he was leaving Kansas City? I want you to think about that for just a second. This is a tweet directed from Robert Griffin straight to the Chiefs saying you should sign this person. Why would he do that if he was going to leave Kansas City within the next couple months? I don't know. But here's my thing. This is another thing that's happened where everything that he has said, everything that he has done has continued to lead us in the direction that we think, and it seems like he thinks as well, he will be staying in Kansas City. Now, obviously, that it's not straight up to him. He has agents, he has people around him, all that stuff. But it seems like he's happy in Kansas City. He wants to be there. Obviously, he wants to get paid, but it seems as though now with the new cap space and honestly a lot of ways to restructure contracts, cut MVS, a couple things, you could open up some money to sign him back. Now, I trust that he wants to come back. As, again, the Twitter warriors are out, and he's one of them. He continues to give us these, coded messages. We showed this on a couple shows back saying, I'm finally back to myself. Life is good. What the heck does that mean, Chris Jones? I'm so confused as to why he just kind of tweets out these cryptic messages every now and then, and you're just thinking, all right. I mean, I know we had the holdout just a couple months back before the season and was thinking what every tweet means, reading directly into it. But the thing I will say, that's a Chiefs uniform that he's wearing in his profile photo still. During his holdout, that was not a profile photo he had. It was him in a hot tub. So I guess you got the Chiefs uniform on there. Now, coming up on the video, I will tell you about who I don't trust and why I think that Chris Jones could be a little bit more harder to sign than it would be if it was just him. Plus, there is another Chiefs player who actually chimed in today talking about why he thinks that, well, Chris Jones should be a Kansas City Chief for life. Before we do that, though, make sure you go check out Prize Picks, guys. I can't tell you how much fun I've had with them over the past couple months. And you can get a $100 deposit match by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using the code CLNS. Now, I know football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of the year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Now, once again, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Now, I like the hardwood, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to go to the diamond first because baseball is also starting to get there, and they've got their season-long totals out here. I want to get some practice in because as soon as baseball season starts, man, I'm throwing Prize Picks like they're candy. I've got more on Ronald Acuna Jr., 37.5 home runs. I've got more on Mookie Betts on his home run total, 32.5. And I've got more on Chris Bryant, 19.5 home runs. Listen, he's in Coors Field hitting a lot of homers. He's not the #1 guy on his roster anymore, which is kind of funny. It's Shohei Ohtani. And then Ronald Acuna, listen, dude's the best player in baseball. With the bat maybe behind Shohei Ohtani, but still, this guy's going to hit 40 bombs, and it's not going to be that hard for him. You can get a $100 deposit match and use it on these right now. Plus, if you're not doing baseball, you're still looking at basketball, don't worry, they got that too. They got NHL, NBA, they got PGA, they got NASCAR. And for basketball games, guess what? They have injury insurance. So even if one of your players gets injured, the entry will stay in play. So if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and then does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays alive. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. Well, that's what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Shout out to Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. Telling you, go check it out. The links will be in the comments and the description of this video. All right, here's why Chris Jones' deal may take a little bit, because I told you just a moment ago, I trust that he wants to stay in Kansas City. I trust that he wants to be here. And honestly, I think that holdout wasn't the direct correlation of him wanting the money, but somebody else. Because he did quote in the Chargers game after he got his incentive with his sack bonus, he said, "I lost a lot of money during my holdout. Now I'm just earning it back." That doesn't sound like somebody who wanted to hold out. You know who did want to hold out? You know who did want more money? That'd be his 2 agents, and I think they could cause some trouble. Now, obviously, it's the nature of the game. There's people like Scott Boras in baseball who right now actually have most of his athletes are not signing. But still, these two guys who we saw in the press suite at the Chiefs' first game with Chris Jones, I think they could cause some problems. And why? Well, because it seems as though the holdout was more or less their choice. It was their idea. They wanted to make sure Chris Jones was rightly paid so that they could get rightly paid, which is fair. It's a business. That's how it works. But at the same time, now you're in the secondary thing of this. You're trying to sign him to a contract, hopefully 4 years plus. It's going to take a little bit of negotiating with these two guys. But not with Chris Jones. I think he thoroughly wants to stay in Kansas City. You don't believe me? Well, he said this on Parade Day. He said, "For those that want Chris Jones gone, I ain't going nowhere, baby. I will be here next year and the year after." This guy wants to be in Kansas City. You can't tell me otherwise, because ultimately he's said it multiple times. He's had things that have just kind of come off as, hey, I want to be here. I want to be a part of the Chiefs. And now you just got to get me that money. I know that obviously We don't think he's not going to give the Chiefs a discount, which is fair. He shouldn't have to. But still, you got to keep him in Kansas City. And not just because he wants to. Players recognize it too. Even guys who have been on the team for 1 year. Talking about Charles Omenihu. Today on NFL Network, he was interviewing, and he said this: I hope that everything works out and that he's a Chief for the rest of his career. Charles Omenihu has been with the Chiefs for a year and already knows that Chris Jones wants to be here. He knows that they want him to be here as well. He believes that he should be with Kansas City for the rest of his career, and I believe the same thing. But ultimately, it's not about what we believe, it's about what will happen. So I ask you this: will Chris Jones sign with the Chiefs, or will he leave? Type S for sign, type L for leave. What is going to happen in the offseason? I hope it's S, but let me know if you think it's L. Get down in the comments section and let me know. All right, now we got to get into some wide receiver information. We talked Odell on the top of the show. I want to kind of draw us back into the wide receiver talk because Tee Higgins, who has been franchise tag officially by the Cincinnati Bengals, is no longer an option for Brett Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs to sign come free agency in just a couple of weeks. So who's next? Who can they sign besides him? Well, I went and looked up some other guys. Here's the free agent wide receivers that we could see on the board: Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., Michael Pittman Jr., Calvin Ridley, Gabe Davis, Marquise Brown, Darnell Mooney, Noah Brown, Tyler Boyd, and KJ Osborne, amongst some other people. One of them being Curtis Samuel, who I will talk about here in just a second. But I wanted to kind of pick out, let's say, 3 guys here that I'm not going to say are more realistic, because I think every one of these guys are realistic options for the Chiefs after the cap increase. But I think these guys are a little bit lighter on the, let's say, checkbook for Brett Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs. The first one being Darnell Mooney. I've seen your comments. Everybody says in the comment section, I want Darnell Mooney. I want Darnell Mooney. I kind of agree with you. I kind of like him. I think he is a really good receiver and was underrated in Chicago. Ultimately, yes, I know he had a couple drops, but the one big one that everybody likes to talk about was the Hail Mary attempt where it bounced off the top of a receiver's hands. He was on the ground and it hit him in the chest. Listen, I understand if it hits you in the chest, you can catch it, but not when you're on the ground at a Hail Mary attempt. That's just kind of stupid. Now, I know he has a little bit of problems here and there with just some route running ability and all that, but I think his athleticism and his drive is there. He wants to win. He's been with Chicago for a couple years. Obviously, this year with DJ Moore, he wasn't the one. He wasn't really the two, to be honest, either. 31 receptions, 414, but I still like what he brings, the moxie, everything he has inside of him. Plus, he's going to be cheap. It's going to be easy. He adds a really good element to your squad. Now, another guy that I think would be pretty good and honestly cheap is KJ Osborne. And the reason I say this, I don't want to come off as like, I don't think he can do it. But I don't think anybody understands what this guy could do, because he's always been a 2 or a 3. You talk about Adam Thielen. He was the top of KJ Osborne in the Minnesota land. Then you had Justin Jefferson come along. I mean, KJ Osborne has been wide receiver 2 or 3. You had Jordan Addison drafted this year, so even when Justin Jefferson got hurt, it was Jordan Addison time. Obviously, KJ Osborne got hurt this season, so that kind of took away a little bit of his time as well. But here's my thing. I think he could be a really good addition for the Chiefs. He seems like the perfect option for the Chiefs to sign. You can't tell me he doesn't give off Marquez Valdez-Scantling vibes or somebody like Juju vibes. Just like a guy who really could have excelled, but just never got over the hump in some ways. I think he'd be a perfect fit for Kansas City. And the one that wasn't on that list, Curtis Samuel. I love this guy. I've told you about him for, I think, since the trade deadline, to be honest. I mean, this guy fits what the Chiefs want to do perfectly. He can catch the ball. He hasn't had a lot of drops. That's number one. He has that kind of Deebo Samuel, I'm going to say it even though he didn't really do it, Kadarius Toney-like gadget player style. He can run under the side. He's got jet sweeps. He got rushing ability. He can do a lot of different things. That would fit perfectly with Kansas City. And ultimately, there is this. If he had 613 yards and 62 receptions with Sam Howell as quarterback, imagine what he could do with Patrick Mahomes. Any of these wide receivers. You put Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, their numbers are going to skyrocket, and I think all of them could be very, very good additions for the Kansas City Chiefs. Ultimately, Brett Veach, though, has to make the move. We'll have to see what he's willing to spend, if he's willing to spend, or if we're going to have to look to the draft for our wide receiver guys. Speaking of which, there's the combine coming up, but I know that we'll talk about draft stuff later. So who's the Chief who's a wide receiver that you want the Chiefs to sign in 2024? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm curious to see what y'all think. Did I miss somebody? Is it one of the three that I said? Name a wide receiver you want the Chiefs to sign in 2024. That's all we got for you on today's show. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. Hit that subscribe button. As always, we're putting out content on the daily, sometimes twice a day. So make sure you're never missing any single video. We've got a lot of good content, and it's continuing to roll here. Listen, Super Bowl champs doesn't mean we sleep. We keep going. We keep making this team better. We keep making this channel better. As always, Chiefs Kingdom. Peace out.